So in case everyone's wondering, this is my truth serum here. So this is how I tell the truth.
Yes, he does go through a truth circle while drinking. Okay, so welcome to episode 4. We are interviewing.
4?
This is number 4.
Oh, this folks can't keep up anymore.
You can't even keep up. And 5's already in the works. So this is KingBossQuad for those of you that have not been formally introduced, because his YouTube consists of random cell phone clips in a video that I made.
That's right, yeah.
We're gonna
self-proclaimed Instagram star.
Yeah, self-proclaimed Instagram star. He's up to like 250 followers and he's lighting the gram on fire. So KingBossQuad, early 30s. Not as good looking in person as he is on film, I'm sure, but he is the mud guy. Never done it before. He invited me to do said activity, and now I'm kind of involved in the whole process of making of the videos, which is interesting. So
yeah, interesting because you get to tag along for free.
I mean, anybody wants to take me on an experience, I am more than willing to partake in said experience.
So we should introduce these two dickheads here. So we've got Brembo, my 5.5-year-old Bernese Mountain Dog, who enjoys coffee and beer, no joke. And then we've got the newest addition, which is, I don't know if you can see him in this pan, but it's a 9-week-old Bernese-Pyrenees mix, and his name is Boost, which I think is totally fitting for my lifestyle.
Yes.
And you guys can't see off camera, but Brembo just literally crawled on the couch and curled up.
And occupied the entire couch.
Yeah.
Surprisingly is very much bigger than I am. Yeah. So, what got you into muddy?
So, I mean, it's actually a really long story. As Bob mentioned, I'm in my early 30s. I think it really all started when I was very, very young, stopped at YouTube. My uncle, Patty, brought home a Honda ATC. It was a 250cc 3-wheeler. And I was very fortunate to grow up with all my cousins. We had, there was like 15 to 20 of us all within the same circle of age. So we brought this home. It had no brakes. It was 5-speed manual shift. There was no floorboards on it. I think the plastics were pretty much held together with zip ties. And we would pack, 5-6 kids on this thing, and we would just go through the woods, and we would spend our days on that thing. And even though it wasn't very fast or it wasn't very powerful, we always had a good time on it. And that was one of my fondest memories growing up with my cousins, and just having a machine around that was reliable even back then, a Honda. So that's kind of how it all started. Fast forward, goodness, about 20 years or so, I've had a little bit of disposable income. I had 2 friends of mine, Jay, who's coming to Mudnats with us, Andy, who's coming to Mudnats with us, and Jay. Andy called me up one day, and we used to race cars together, Subaru.
We're not going to get into that for the record.
Yeah, we'll just edit that in.
Yeah.
That was very nightmarish. But we were looking for a hobby that was a little bit lower cost, and he called me. He's like, "Hey, Jay and I bought these Honda ATVs. You said you always wanted to do it. Did you want to join us?" And I literally, at the drop of a hat, ran to the nearest Honda cycle dealership and bought a Honda Foreman 500 FM, which is manual shift, no power steering, 500cc. Exactly what my last bike I had growing up. Just went back to my roots, and I rode that pretty hard for 2 years. And the lineage of kind of KingBossQuad, and I know it seems kind of selfish around calling myself KingBossQuad. It's like the KingBossQuad squad. It's a group of people. It's not just me, and it's the core group of people that you kind of ride with. And Andy and Jay are part of that still. But the name actually is stolen, like anything good in technology or anything good in kind of logos or trademarks. Probably the second trip out in my Honda had the stock tires on. I think there were, goodness, like 12-inch rims with maybe 22s or 23-inch tires. They were little dinky hockey pucks.
Not that there's anything wrong with that for those of you getting into the sport.
Yeah, well, I mean, now I'm around 34, so it's a bit different. But yeah, good point. Because I had my most fun on those because you would never break. You would never break, and you
were always stuck
all day long.
So all day you were just working on getting the machines in.
2 hours of riding would be like 10 now. You're just exhausted. Anyways, we were trying all day to get through this one crossing, and we all had Hondas. We all had stock tires on. Nobody was any better than anybody else. We had a blast, and we were probably in that pit for maybe 2.5 hours. Nobody had winches either, right? We weren't that smart then. trying to push each other out. And an old guy was at the top of the hill and he was coming down and he sat there and he watched us for a little bit. I'll never forget. He had it was an Outlander XLR, kind of Gen 1 style, and he had a little hula girl on his dash. It was just kind of hulaing around, and he pulled up and he says, "Can you guys kind of move out of the way a little bit?" And I kind of looked at him and snickered. I'm like, "What are you gonna do? Go through this?" And he said, "Yeah, I'll go through that. And I'm gonna put my feet up." And he went through it so effortlessly. It was the first set of 30-inch silverbacks I'd ever seen. That I was just completely dumbfounded. And on the way out of the mud hole that we just spent 2 hours in, he threw me a peace sign. And on the back of his quad said KingBossQuad. And so from there, anytime anybody ever got stuck or anytime anything cool really happened, it was, "Oh, KingBossQuad," and that's kind of where it originated. And so I stole that about 7 or 8 years ago. And you know, it just kind of became a saying that became kind of who I was, who we are, who the squad was, to a logo, and now really to a whole brand, a whole empire. So,
which is a part of the camaraderie thing. It's not just like we're guys going down. It's KingBossQuad and his squad, and we're all going to go down and slay it. So you had mentioned you got out of racing cars, tuner cars, to get into a more cost-effective sport. And I know you rolled through a few machines, and we're not going to get into the values of everything. I'm sure you'll see the videos and you'll do some mental calculations, and you might blow your own brains out when you're done. But let's talk about Texas, because this is year number 2. You learned a lot the first trip. What are we talking about? What are we taking? And what do we have invested to make year number 2 better than year number 1?
Yeah, good question. And it comes back to smiles per mile, right? You know, racing cars was fun, but you know, you had to go to a closed circuit racetrack. You had to organize the whole event. You paid a lot of money. And there's a lot of wrenching that went behind it. Whereas with quads, I can leave from my front yard and have a good time. So it certainly kind of broadens your horizon in terms of what your capabilities are. So Texas this year. So big plans, actually, for those that know me well, know that I started planning for this the second I got home from the last trip. I had such a blast last year. I think even if you went down with a stock machine, as long as you had a core group of people, and there's so many amazing people there, that you find a way to have fun.
Absolutely.
It really is. The camaraderie there is amazing. You know, Texans by themselves are amazing, and the people that kind of come in from the pooling states are all some of the best people in the world. And so this year the planning really was incredibly in depth. You know, as many know, I bought a new truck this year. I have a large fifth wheel that I have, big 44-foot enclosed. And I pulled that last year with a Dodge Cummins across the nation, which worked out perfectly fine. But pulling a fifth wheel with a single rear axle truck gets a bit hairy sometimes. So I went with a nice Ford F350 dually. I still have the Dodge Cummins, which has kind of turned into that tuner car nightmare. Big horsepower, lots of money.
And a garage queen.
Yeah, and a garage queen, which will be coming to my nuts as well. It does put itself to work. So really it started back in when I purchased the Ford. That was likely back in May timeframe, where I knew I was going to do it. And of course, you can't just buy a Ford or a truck. You got to put rims and tires on it. So I put large rims and tires on it, and then you know, you run into difficulties with that. You got to put airbags on it, and you got to get spacious for the dually rims, and then you know, you got to delete the truck and all that fun stuff. So kind of the trucks take their own path because towing and getting there is probably more important than the actual event themselves.
Yeah, because you got to get home.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting there and getting home, and it's doing it safely, which is incredibly fun, but incredibly difficult to do. So started with the Ford, getting that suited for the 44-foot enclosed. I had also ordered a 50-foot enclosed this year, which didn't get delivered in time, so we had to make some preparations. Some of those preparations were figuring out how to get 5 ATVs, 5 large ATVs, in a 28-foot skidoo trailer, if you will. It's nice and closed, with a single rear axle truck with a short bed. So quick shout out to Diamondback ATV Covers. They hooked me up with a wicked cover that allows me to pull those 3 quads in the enclosed and put 2 up top, so that was kind of able to solve
my... Which is episode 3. If Correct. You are really curious, there will be a lot more of the trucks and the operations and all that throughout the entire experience in the going to Texas. We've been doing a lot of prep, as you mentioned, and this is the last the finishing prep, making sure everything's 100%, the 99% that he's already done. I mean, we talked about
we're talking
6 days a week for
easily. This is consumed every evening, every weekend. You know, it's it's funny because we're just talking trucks and trailers here. We're not even talking the machines that go into this and the fun that's around riding them, the modifications that you'd like to have for Mud Nationals. I mean, you know, for anybody that goes to Mud Nationals, you know, you need two things, right? You need, well, three things: big tires, you need sound systems, and you need lighting. I'm not a big sound system guy, certainly something that I'm going to get into over the coming years, but lighting's a big thing for me, and big tires is a kind of a big thing for me. And big for Canada would be a good set of 34s. I know you guys run 40s and bigger, which is super awesome and great to see. They just won't last up here, unfortunately. But just having, my fleet includes 5 quads, which is 2 Renegade XMR 1000s, now 2 Can-Am X3s, one's a XRS, the other one's a XMR, brand new. And then the other one's a Can-Am Commander, which kind of does all the work around the house, and was actually on deck to come with us this year if I had the big trailer. So, you know, if anyone has one Can-Am, they know the maintenance that goes into that, you know, brake pads, fluid changes, breakage, electrical issues. So we had to go through all of that, and you know, thank God I've got Lockhart's in my corner who, you know, really steps up to the plate every year, every summer, every fall, every spring, and kind of takes on that workload for me, and kind of helps me with my wrenching as well, because I certainly do a little bit myself. So trucks, trailers, obviously the machines themselves, and then what we've been delving into and you've seen is kind of the fitments to get everything safely down to Texas. You know,
you can't do it once. It's not like, oh, we put a cover on the truck. It's going to be 100%. We'll leave it to the last day. We'll roll the machines up, and it will be in Texas. No, it's a few fitments and tire changes, and not flipping over and not dying and injuring everybody and breaking the truck and the house and the quad. And everything goes south really quickly.
Yeah, it's a good point. So obviously I run big tires on my quads, and the Diamondback ATV cover is made for, you know, a large quad, but not what I have. So, you know, tires related, correct. So we had to switch some tires around. I had to get some 27s to put on there for transport. Also in the big trailer, the new Can-Am Maverick X3s are, I believe, 11 feet long compared to the old typical Maverick, which was 9 inch change, almost 10. So I've lost, you know, 2 usable feet in my trailer, which I absolutely needed. So I think our next episode, our next footage is going to be trying to figure out how to take 33 usable feet and fitting 35 feet of machines in there. And I'll just kind of give you guys a prequel. It's going to be something about stacking.
Yeah, this is Jenga like you've never seen Jenga.
Yeah, once they go in, they're only coming out once and going back in once, that's it. So, yeah.
It's going to be intense.
It is. And for anybody that's been down there before, you know, whether you've driven 3,000 miles like we are, or, you know, 300 miles, just getting everything unloaded and taking that kind of fresh breath of air, you're like, you know, you made it. That's when the fun really begins, and that's when you get to meet a lot of cool people, certainly see a lot of cool machines. You know, it's truly an experience. It's like a festival. If you guys have ever been to any sort of festival, like a beer drinking festival, mix a beer drinking festival with the best off-roading scene you've ever seen, with a little bit of Mardi Gras in there, and we all know what we're talking about there. Mixed with some of your best friends around the world and some of the nicest people, and add some mud, and that's Mud Nationals.
And I'm going to go film it, and I'm going to give you guys some great edits.
Yeah, one other thing that I didn't touch on that I think is quite relevant is the purchase from the Honda to the actual Can-Am. So I saw the guy go through it, and like anybody in this day and age, you know, you feverishly go home and you pull up Google and you try and figure out, you know, what was that machine? I saw Can-Am, and you pull up Can-Am. And I remember Can-Am as a kid, you know, it was something you didn't buy. It just wasn't. It wasn't reliable. There was this kind of woe against any belt-driven machine when the Polaris 500 first came out, the Sportsman. Nobody wanted to touch it. It was, you know, it was a bad bike. And at least that's what we told from the older generation. So I did my research, and I pulled up Can-Am, and I looked on BRP's website, and I'm like, wow, 1,000cc V-twin. I'm like, there's no way they're fitting that in a bike. And here I am on, the second biggest bike Honda made, a 500 versus the 680 Rincon. And I was blown away, so I pulled up YouTube and I typed in BRP Can-Am 1000cc, and sure enough, the first hit that came up was Austin Cruiser. And I think this was a video from 2014 or so. And the particular video, he had just bought his Renegade at the time, and he was doing a walk around of the Renegade. I believe he had his Commander at the same time, or just recently sold it in his old Outlander. But just looking at that Renegade and just being in awe of it. And I think the moment that I realized it was Can-Am was watching him wheelie this thing with a giant catless lift on it. I mean, to wheelie a quad, even a Honda, takes significant effort. I mean, with a Rincon, you kind of do need a gear reduction, but I was blown away. That was on a Sunday because I got back from Saturday from riding. On the Monday, I called in for a vacation day and I went to the nearest BRP dealer I could find, and I walked in and I saw a Can-Am Outlander XLR 1000, and it was up in the rack. It was literally brand new, they had just built it, and I said, I need to own that. You need to tell me how I need to own that, like what do I need to do? And I left with it that Saturday and we rode that Sunday, and I've never looked back. In terms of a bike, and you watch the lineage of a manufacturer like BRP, they've certainly dipped their toe into a market initially that they probably didn't know that great, competing against some of the big brands like Yamaha, Kawasaki, Honda,
Polaris.
Well, Polaris too, yeah.
The Razor was a really hard hitter when it came out.
Can't put that down at all. But BRP, kind of from owning them probably for the last 5 years, excuse me. My first Outlander XMR, it was Gen 2, believe it or not. The fitment quality of everything, the build quality was subpar. I mean, it really was. They jammed this giant engine into way too long of a frame and way too heavy of a bike, but it worked, and it worked so damn well. But none of the plastics lined up. If you took those little plastic clips off, you were never getting them back on. You had to put new ones on every time. The rear diffs never worked. Shout out to Mudda Wheels, Jared. You guys do some great stuff. Saved me a lot of times. Just watching the build quality as I go machine over machine over machine every year. And right now I'm kind of buying 1 or 2 a year. Looking at the new Maverick X3 XMR, or even the X3 XRS I have, the build quality, the fitment, the way the plastics fit, the durability, they've really stepped up.
The ergonomics. I'm a big ergonomics person with the physical disability stuff. I can get in and out of it easier. Ride comfort is not like nothing else I've ever experienced. So yeah, I'll attest to that. I've been in all your machines. The new X3s are next level. There,
comfort. You are right. Comfort level is going up. As a guy who's an enthusiast, I'm not so concerned about comfort as I am with ability and usability and durability. So I will say, they're incredibly more capable. I will say this, and anybody that's rode with me last year, to get my X3 stuck with those 34-inch Assassinators, and that's it. That's all it had. Suspension crank, 34-inch Assassinator stock was a feat. And don't hold me to this, but I don't believe I got stuck in 2017. So at least not with that.
I can only think of once, but you weren't driving, and it was literally on like a full tree.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I wasn't driving. It's amazing, and so I just got rid of my last kind of chassis of the side-by-side world of the Maverick XMR, which was a great bike, round and round. But the durability was always a question for me. I'm sure it was a very stoked machine and had a lot of power behind it. But what it came down to at the end of the day was easy use. So being able to get in and change a belt, being able to get in, change something out very quickly, like an axle.
The real world logistics of owning.
Correct. Yeah, correct. It was incredibly difficult to do, and with the new X3, even pressure washing it's like pressure washing a Gen 2 Outlander with full skids versus a naked Renegade. We're talking 15 minutes versus 2 hours, and anybody that takes care of their bikes knows that pressure washing is, you ride for 10 minutes, you pressure wash for 20. It's kind of a double standard, but being able to clean something that you love and put energy into and time and money, is equally as fun, and just being able to do that a lot faster and have something as durable, looks good all the time. I mean, you're not worrying about your plastics and stuff. So
absolutely.
BRP build quality is going up the hill.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and power. I mean, good God, 172 horse on the new one. What the fuck?
I've only driven the old one, so
yeah,
we'll get there.
So my old X3, interesting story for you folks here, and a lot of people just saw the drag race between Austin Cruiser and myself from last year's Mud Nats.
So they might not have known that was you. They just seen Austin Cruiser.
Right. So that was me.
This is the other X3.
That was me that took the loss that day. But there's a pre-story to it, and Austin Cruiser will agree to it. The night before, very late in the park. Austin Cruiser was with his 34.5-inch at Loss, and he had the Mr. RPM tune on it, and I was stock, no tune, with 32-inch silverbacks, and we had drag raced several times, and I had a passenger even, and every time I would have him for the first 200 or 300 feet in any gear we had chosen, high or low. So sneakily enough, Austin Cruiser and I had agreed to film it just to kind of show the difference in power, because there was no doubt his machine was spinning more off the get-go, but was able to catch me on the top end. I also was brake boosting a little bit because I know how turbos work. But anyways, I said, okay, you know what? Let's film it tomorrow at lunch. I had snuck off to Mr. RPM's booth, and I had mine tuned, and I said, you know what? With no passenger this time, with smaller rims and tires, there's no way he's going to beat me with the same power. And so sure enough, we lined them up, four-wheel high with a little bit of throttle and a little bit of brake. He counted it down, 1, 2, 3, gone, and he pulled probably 4 or 5 lengths on me right away. And I looked at my speedo and my RPM, both were just pegged. I was spinning all the way. So sometimes more power is not good. The bigger tires do help with traction. The only reason I was doing that night is actually I had less power, I was spinning less. So that is what happened in the video, and then this year we'll redo it. I got 172 horse one, and I'll put some proper tires on it this time. And
I'll be there to film it, so we'll get a little.
That's right, a little bit.
KingBossQuad gets some credit in it as well, and I'm very excited to meet Austin Cruiser and do some work with him as well. It'll be really fun to collaborate with some other YouTubers, because that's what the game is all about: camaraderie and the experience, and it's going to be a really great time.
Cool. By the way, these are the new jerseys that are coming out, folks. They're kind of cool.
I'll be having one of those.
Yeah, there's a few kicking around for some cool people that have helped me out over the years. Obviously, my whole team crew will have one, and also another thing that a lot of people don't realize is I ride with my dad, which I think is an important piece I didn't touch on. So, you know, a lot of father sons do this bonding around baseball or hockey or football. My dad and I never really did that. It was shockingly video games growing up, and you know, I outgrew video games. He didn't.
Still has it. I game with him now, yeah. He doesn't.
No, he's super cool, and you know, for a few years we always struggled to kind of figure out what it was. I was into cars, but cars is kind of a singular sport in a sense, because you kind of need to have one both. And he was in the Mercedes, and you know, I was in these tuner cars, and they just kind of they weren't meshing. So I brought my dad out one time, and I shoved his ass on the Honda, and I said, okay, let's go to the mud park and let's have a go. And he was in a mud pit, and I pulled up, sat him on my can out, and I said, how's it going? And he looked at me, he's like, this is not fun. I said, you know what, let's just switch bikes. And so I cranked the power steering all the way up for him. I put it in low gear, didn't have to shift gears, put it in four-wheel drive, no issues. And he hopped on it, he just disappeared. I didn't see him for like 25 minutes. And I was floating around trying to find him. I finally found him, and he's in the biggest mud pit there was. And I just see him water wheeling through the whole mud pit as best he could as a new person. And you know, similarly to me, when I first drove a Can-Am, he pulled out, he got out, and he's like, that is what I want, that is amazing. And I said, yeah, whatever, you can come with me once a month, it's fine. And he went out and bought one that Monday. Brampton Power Sports called me, they're not around anymore, and they're like, your dad's buying a brand new Maverick XLR 1000. And I said, no way. And so I've actually never ridden without my dad or my buddy Mike. They're kind of my core group of guys, the three of us, the trio. And so yeah, I get to spend a lot of time with my dad, which is super cool. He's not super old yet, so we've got a few more years going. I'd say at least another 10 or 15. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I think we're going to call it here. I think we've achieved our goals with this interview.
I need more ice.
All right, so stay tuned. It's going to be one heck of a month coming up.
Yeah, also, if you guys see this, you know, we were going to have a 20-foot Canadian flag up there, just so we can find our campsite when we're a little slightly intoxicated. That's kind of best because we got lost last year. So no words. Come over, you know, grab a beer with us, sit down, have a chat. Happy to kind of walk you guys through, you know, the machines. Sometimes you guys even know them better than we do. You know, walk us through our machines. That's cool. You know, the sport's all about camaraderie. It's all about partnership. It's all about fun. It's all about laughs. And you know, swing by, have a beer. And I do look forward to meeting all you guys. We all do.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Till next time, take care and behave, if possible.
Peace.